Imagine a world where the most dangerous people in a neighborhood are the only ones who can bring peace. We often think of safety as something that comes from the outside. We look for police cars, sirens, and handcuffs. We assume that the more arrests we make, the safer we will be. But what if the real solution is growing inside the community itself? What if the people who lived through the war are the only ones who know how to end it? This is a story about the hidden power of those we often overlook. It is about turning the survivors of violence into the architects of peace. We are talking about a shift from fear to healing. It is about redefining what it means to be safe in our own backyards. This journey begins in the heart of urban conflict, where the stakes are life and death every single day. The context of this situation is rooted in decades of concentrated struggle. In many urban areas across the United States, violence is not a random event. It is a cycle that repeats itself. For example, in the early 90s, homicide rates in Los Angeles reached levels that felt like an all-time high. In some neighborhoods, the risk was so great that attending 20 funerals before the age of 16 was not unusual. Statistics show that for young black males between the ages of 14 and 25, violence is actually the leading cause of death. These communities are often 15 times more likely to experience harm, yet they are 3 times less likely to receive the help they need. This gap creates a sense of deep isolation and anger. It is an environment where joining a group or a gang feels like the only way to find safety in family. On the surface, we see a concept that many people find hard to accept. We often view gangs as purely violent organizations. We see the news reports of shootings and crime. However, the reality on the surface is that a very small portion of these individuals, perhaps only 3 to 5%, are actually committing violent acts. For many others, the group is a surrogate family. It is a place of belonging and mutual protection. When a peace treaty is signed between warring groups, it isn't just a political move. It is a recognition that the war has no winners. On the surface, peace looks like a decline in numbers. In the first 2 years after a major treaty in Watts, homicides dropped by 44%. This surface-level change shows us that when the people at the center of the fight decide to stop, the world around them changes instantly. Beneath this surface lies a hidden assumption that we need to challenge. We often assume that law enforcement is the only legitimate provider of public safety. We believe that professional training and a badge are the only tools that work. But this assumption misses the power of relationship capital. A police officer might be able to investigate a crime after it happens, but they often lack the deep ties to the neighborhood needed to prevent the next shooting in real time. The hidden truth is that people with lived experience are often the most effective messengers. They are credible because they have walked the same streets. They have shared the same losses. This hidden strength is often ignored by official systems, leaving community leaders to fund their work out of their own pockets. We assume that more arrests equal more safety, but arrests alone cannot heal the trauma that fuels the violence. This leads us to a structural pattern in how we manage public health and safety. Think about how we view hospitals. We don't rely only on emergency rooms to keep a city healthy. We invest in preventative care, community health workers, and education. We have built a structure for health that reaches people before they get sick. Public safety is now moving toward this same structural pattern. We are seeing the rise of community street teams and trauma recovery centers. These are not just side projects. They are becoming a formal part of the city infrastructure. In Newark, for instance, this approach helped reduce homicides from over 100 in a year to just 37. The structural shift is moving toward an ecosystem of programs that residents actually trust. It is about putting the public back into public safety by making residents the leads in their own protection. We can reframe this whole issue by looking through a new perspective. Instead of seeing violence as a moral failing of a neighborhood, we can see it as a public health crisis. If we treat violence like a disease, we can focus on intervention and prevention rather than just punishment. This reframing allows us to see formerly incarcerated people as valuable assets. They are not their mistakes. They are experts in conflict resolution. When we reframe peace as a journey rather than a destination, we realize that it requires constant work and investment. Peace is not just the absence of crime. It is the presence of well-being. It is the infrastructure that supports victims so they can heal. This new perspective values the gift that often lies within a person's deepest wounds. It is a way of saying that our most painful experiences can become our greatest contributions to society. Applying this to our daily lives means changing how we interact with those around us. It starts with holding space for people and beholding them for who they are, not just what they have been through. We can all be listeners. We can choose not to define others by their worst moments. In our own neighborhoods, we can look for the non-traditional leaders. Maybe it is the person who runs a local youth program or the neighbor who always knows how to settle a dispute. We can support these credible messengers by recognizing their value. On a larger scale, we can advocate for public funding to go toward community-led safety programs. We can recognize that safety is a shared strategy. When we undress our own secrets and stories, we allow others to do the same. This creates a bridge of trust that is stronger than any wall or fence. To deepen this reflection, we should think about the human cost of waiting for change. Every number we see in a report represents a life. It represents a parent who has lost a child or a child who has lost a mentor. The tragedy is that so much of this is preventable if we have the courage to invest in the right people. We often hesitate to give power to those who have been on the wrong side of the law, but they are the ones who can reach the youth who are currently at risk. They can offer a way out because they know the way in. When a student can walk to school through a safe passage program, their whole future changes. They are no longer focused on survival. They can focus on learning. This is how we break the cycle. We don't just stop the violence. We replace it with opportunity and a sense of shared responsibility. The journey toward safety is also a journey toward healing. For those who have lost loved ones, the work of peace becomes a way to honor their memory. It is a commitment to ensuring that no other family has to feel that same pain. This is the heart of actionable hope. It is the ability to sit with anguish and still look for the gift within the struggle. It is the belief that our children should not inherit our conflicts. When we scale these local successes to a national level, we are building a new foundation for the entire country. We are proving that peace is possible when we trust the community to lead. It is a long road, and there are many challenges along the way, but every life saved is a victory. Every 9-year decline in violence is a testament to the power of resident-led change. As we look toward the future, we have to ask ourselves if we are ready to redefine our approach. Are we ready to move beyond just arrests and into a world where everyone has equitable access to safety? This requires a shift in how we distribute resources and how we view leadership. It requires us to listen to the voices that have been silenced for too long. When we do this, we create a stronger, more effective approach to safety that complements traditional methods. We break the cycle of harm and replace it with a cycle of care. This is the real meaning of public safety. It is a community that takes care of its own and refuses to give up on its people. It is a transformation that starts in the streets and ends in a more peaceful world for all of us. If you had the power to change how your own neighborhood handles safety, would you be willing to trust the people who have lived through the most conflict to be the ones who lead the way to peace?